St. John's, of course, has Chris Mullin, but
Chris Mullin.
the big story.
That's one of the big news. The other big news is
Georgetown got Patrick Ewing to be their head coach, and I could not be any more happy for the guy. A guy who was an assistant coach in the NBA for 15 years with the Wizards and the Rockets and recently the Charlotte Hornets.
And he should have been with the New York Knicks, but for some reason Dolan has a spot for him in his heart, as you can see.
Yeah,
you know?
a spot in his black heart.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I said, I like the team. I may not like the owner, but I like the team. I like what he's done this year, which he's kept his mints off. Every year, he's always had his hands in with the Knicks. The owner always had something to do with it. Now, going to the Knicks,
sometimes I wonder exactly what this guy's intentions were.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in hiring Phil Jackson. Did he hire Phil Jackson because he thought he was the right man for the job, or did he hire Phil Jackson just to appease the fan base and to have the media and the fan base leave him alone and deflect all the blame on Jackson?
Both, because everybody the majority of the people wanted Phil. And that's the truth. You know, he's got 10 rings, but some people didn't want it because he's a coach. He's not a GM, and it's a hard transition from coach to GM. However, his picks haven't been that bad lately with KP, Kuz.
The Kristaps Porzingis draft pick was not a terrible draft pick.
William and Gomez.
Some of the younger players that they brought in have played reasonably well for them.
They have.
But when you make a deal for Joakim Noah, a guy who not only got himself suspended for 20 games for taking PEDs, but has already shown that he has been very, very, very fragile physically.
Yeah. And then what happened to Rose, too.
And also making the Derrick Rose trade once again.
But
this is his
third.
Third.
It wasn't a trade.
Third injury.
It wasn't a trade, though. It was
Derrick Rose was acquired for Robin Lopez.
It was no, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
It was a 1 year.
Derrick Rose was acquired for Robin Lopez.
It was 1 year. It was 1 year.
It was a legitimate trade. And at the time, it didn't look like a bad trade because at least they were ridding themselves of a guy who was not much of an offensive threat, and they were getting a guy who was a good scoring guard.
Yeah.
I wish that he had brought his assist level up, but at least they were bringing in somebody who,
that was the thing.
When he had two good knees, was
he played well,
close to a franchise player. But once again,
towards the end,
he tore up his knee for the third time.
Is it going to be a?
I'm already hearing that.
Some people say
his career is over. I don't buy the fact that his career is over because how competitive he is, he still wants to play. But
I can say this much: for what he did with the Knicks, he put up good numbers for himself. Did he pass the ball? No. Was he a good defensive ball player? No. Not too many people on the Knicks were very good defensively, considering Kurt Rambis, who's supposed to be the defensive specialist, and in his own time was a very good defensive ball player. However, now they're going defensive-minded because now let's go to Carmelo Anthony for a minute.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Let's go for Carmelo Anthony. If you trade him.
He's not going anywhere, I'm telling you right now.
No, but if you trade him, let's say you trade him, what type of value, considering all the stats that he's given and done, what do you think you can get for him? Because
First of all,
that's very hard.
They had their chance to make a deal to trade him away at the deadline, and they chose at the last minute not to do it. So his trade value is basically minuscule.
For who?
Anybody.
No.
Yes.
It was for Austin. It was for Austin, Jamal Crawford, and the draft pick.
Please. I would not touch Jamal Crawford with a 10-foot pole. I could care less what he's done with the Clippers. Seriously.
That was the deal. So you would trade
5 years on the Clippers, and he's been able to help them be a playoff team. 4 years on the Knicks, and he did nothing. That's one thing. And another thing, Carmelo Anthony's trade value is almost none right now. No. His trade value is almost none right now. Because for one, he's making way too much money.
What do you get for him? What type of?
That's the
what
problem. They can't get anything
but-
for him
but if
because
you would
no team is going to be willing to deal with that franchise,
What do you
especially dealing for Anthony.
What do you mean? There were a couple of players. There were a couple of teams that were willing to offer. The problem
And
is,
they were both, and they were probably,
they were
probably best at not making a deal for him because
No.
they had, for one thing, they had very, very little to
Okay,
offer the
let me
Knicks.
ask
They
you.
had almost nothing
Let me
to
ask
offer
you,
him.
Let me ask you. Straight up trade.
I'm telling you.
No, go quiet for a moment. Kevin Love, Carmelo Anthony, straight up.
Their general manager would be fired within a matter of seconds. I'll
That
tell you
was
that
the
right
trade
now.
That was going to happen.
I
That
didn't
was
hear
a- that
anything
was a
about
rumor.
it.
That was a rumor. That was supposed to be a straight up trade.
Cleveland's general manager would have been fired in 15
What?
seconds
That's
if he
LeBron's
made
buddy.
that trade.
That's LeBron's buddy. Carmelo.
It
could
don't
still
matter
shoot.
if they're
He could still
buddies. It
pass.
don't matter.
He could
First
still
of all,
pass and
Carmelo
shoot.
Anthony
He could
couldn't
still
pass
play.
the Carmelo Anthony
passing very
couldn't
well.
pass the salt to one of his friends at the
Nah,
dinner
nah,
table.
nah,
That's
nah,
number
nah,
one.
Now you're going
He
off the
won't
deep.
pass.
Now you're
He
going off the
won't
deep.
pass.
Now you're
The
off
guy
the deep.
is a straight up locker room killer.
No, he's
chemistry
not.
killer.
He's a very good person to be in the locker
No,
room. He's a leader.
he's not a leader.
Yes,
Come
he is.
on.
Porzingis
He's not a
wants him.
leader.
Porzingis wants him. Porzingis wants him. He's saying.
I don't know about that.
That's what
Says
he's saying.
who?
That's what he's saying in the newspaper.
No,
He said it live.
that's a load of garbage. Give me a break. Carmelo Anthony is a locker room cancer, and they know it.
No, he's not.
He is a locker room cancer.
Calm down.
No, I'm not calming down because
Jesus, here we
once
go
again,
again.
you
You
gotta
can't talk-
defend this franchise
I am not
shamefully.
I am not defending the franchise. I'm
Yo,
defending
you are defending this
Baker.
franchise shamefully
Baker.
when they don't need to be defended.
Ron Baker. Do you keep him or do you let him go? I mean, if you want to get rid of everybody, then who do you have as? I mean, for
They
God's sake.
can't get rid of everybody because they
Okay,
need to
so
have
who
a
do you-
12 to
so who do
15
you
man
want on the
roster.
team? Who do you want? Do you want Ron Baker?
Who I want on the team is a superstar player,
Right.
and they can't get that.
My point is, but do you sign Ron Baker? Yes or no? Do you sign the Holiday brothers? Do you sign? You see, these are the things that you have to worry about as
They have
person that covers the Knicks.
no choice but to try and bring back Ron Baker because right
think he's a
now,
good player?
young players like those are the only players that the Knicks can try and have on their roster right now.
he's a good player, good defensive.
He's
minded
an
too.
okay player, but he's not an impact player, not even close.
You're not
That's
gonna
the
get a
problem with that
Russell
franchise.
Westbrook.
As long as that jerk is still running that franchise, they will never, ever get a superstar player here. Kevin Durant would not go to the Knicks, partly because he was the problem.
And you know what the funny thing is? He didn't, and people would chastise him because he left his own team to go to a better team. I mean, hell, if you think you got
At least Kevin Durant went to a team that has a better chance of winning a championship.
Not that the team that he was playing for didn't have a good chance of winning, but when you have
They were
when you have
one
three-
game last year from winning it all. One game.
When
But
you
the
have-
Warriors just executed better the last 3 games of that
But
series.
when you have Stephen Curry on your team, that's a loaded team. There are very few teams that are very loaded right now. That like the other team was the Pelicans with DeMarcus Cousins and the unibrow guy. I forgot his name.
I'm going to tell you right now, that is a disaster. That has not even happened yet. DeMarcus Cousins, he basically forced his way out of Sacramento, even in spite of the fact that he wanted to stay there. He forced his way out of Sacramento mostly because of his behavior and the number of technical fouls that he's committed, and also the constant problems in the locker room that he was causing.
Yeah,
And
he got
speaking
a
of
couple coaches. He got a couple of coaches fired too.
The guy's completely uncoachable. And speaking of locker room
But that's a
problems,
good team.
I still say Carmelo Anthony has very, 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 very little trade value.
He
There
got
is
more
not
trade
one
value? No,
single
get outta here. You
team
don't know what
that
you're
is going to
talking
be
about.
interested
You
in
don't know
wanting
what
to
you're
deal
talking
with
about.
that
You're not-
man.
you don't know what
They're
you're
going to
talking
have to
about.
wait until he becomes a free agent in a year or two
You ha-
to try and do anything to convince that guy to put winning first. Because right now, he is not putting winning first. He's putting himself first. And why don't you just look at the way that he has been playing on the court?
Yeah, look at him.
He won't pass.
He's been passing.
His defense has gone way down.
He's been blocking shots.
That's a load of crap, and you know it.
He's been blocking shots.
That's a load of crap, and you know it.
Defensive player.
He is not a defensive player. Come on now. Give me a break. He doesn't play defense at all.
The team has not been a defensive-minded team, except for the
It's time that they got themselves some defensive-minded guys, because I don't see any one stopper on that franchise.
Except for the secondary. When the secondary team comes, they spark the team. They come from 23 points down. They come close, and, just like when you're having sex, you get there, but they won't climax. So the point is, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. The Knicks play hard. They have 23 back, or they'll be 30 behind. Somehow or another, they'll come back from 23 or 30 behind. They'll give you that great run, then fall short again. They'll lose by 10. They lose by 1 point. Carmelo Anthony, if you look at his stats, if you go by his stats alone, it's hard to get a value for him because of his stats. His stats shows you that he is high on a lot of things. You can't say that he's a garbage player and so forth.
I'm not saying he's a garbage player. I'm saying he's not the right fit for that franchise.
You have to get quality for quality. You can't just.
They had their chance to get a deal done, and they decided not to do that.
Austin Rivers, a draft choice, and Jamal Crawford.
Oh, please, give me Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers is not going to make any difference whatsoever on any type of franchise.
That was the Clippers.
He's lucky he's got the role that he has right now playing for his old man.
That was the Clippers. So you're not going to trade him for that. Why? Because Carmelo Anthony is better than that. So you need to get a quality player to match Carmelo Anthony. Now, it's very hard. Now, with 2 draft choices would do it. With 2 number ones and 1 second, would that do it? You don't know. You really don't know.
And another thing,
he's proven
they mortgaged their future way too many times in the past by trading away draft picks. It is time for them to start building through the draft.
They are. They're getting.
Kristaps Porzingis is one guy.
No, but they're
That's
building.
one guy. You have to build through the draft. You have to build through smart free agent choices.
But they're doing that now.
That's why I see what San Antonio did in the past, winning 5 titles. You know why? Because they built through the draft. And look at what Golden State did the last couple of years. You know why? Because they built through the draft and they made smart trades.
I've always criticized the Knicks on how come when they, let's say for instance, when they picked Billy Donovan, when he was playing college ball, he was one of the best players in the league.
He was only a good college player, but he couldn't last 5 seconds in the NBA.
He was playing scared. And I'm talking about who are the scouts that are picking these guys that are going, oh, he's going to make it, he's going to make it, he's going to make it. Was it Kendi? No, is it Marvin Webster, Marvin the Eraser Webster. They said he lost his mind. Great player in college. Was a good player with the Knicks. All he needed was
He was never a great player with the Knicks, ever.
Kenny Skywalker had to see a psychologist. And then after he won the dunk contest, he became a real nice player. The Knicks need nice players. Again,
They need more than nice players. They need impact players. They need a franchise player.
They need a team that plays like a team. Sometimes you don't need superstars on the team. You just need players that play as a team, because there have been a lot of teams out there that don't have superstar players, but if they play like a team like they're supposed to.
And I don't know how you can say you don't need a superstar to try and get far. If that's true, explain Magic Johnson. Explain Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Explain Wilt Chamberlain and what they did for the Lakers. Explain Kobe and Shaquille O'Neal. Explain Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale on the Celtics.
Let me ask you this.
Jordan and Pippen on the Bulls. Tim Duncan, David Robinson on the Spurs.
Let me ask you something.
And just a couple of years ago, Steph Curry. Or LeBron with the Cavaliers and the Heat.
Besides the Curry team.
Yes, you do need a superstar to win a championship.
Besides the Warriors, right? Who's got a loaded team?
Who's got a loaded team? San Antonio. 60 wins this season.
No, loaded. I mean players.
The Cavaliers have LeBron.
Okay.
The Celtics have
Al
Horford.
I'm talking about the whole team. I'm not talking about one person. Because remember, when Jordan had Pippen, they had a really damn good team. The Lakers, even with Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul, they really had good players like Kurt Rambis. They had all them damn good players that came off. It wasn't. There's five guys. So you tell me, if you took LeBron out of the Cavaliers,
they would win 25 to 30 games per season.
He sucks. But my point is, they wouldn't be as great as they are now without LeBron.
And there are probably 5 or 6 teams out there that are loaded, as you say.
Tell me who besides
the
Warriors.
Spurs, Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and a whole Jonathan Simmons, and a whole list of role players that have done great for them. The Rockets have James Harden and a whole cast of characters who have done so well that they've been able to get to third place and win about 50 to 55 games this season. The Celtics, Al Horford, Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, a whole cast of young players who've been terrific this year.
And older players too. Remember, they got 2 older players as well. But my point is, the teams that were from yesteryear are not of this year. You're talking about the Celtics. You're talking about the Lakers.
You said that a team does not need a superstar. You absolutely 100% need a superstar to win a title in any sport, not just basketball.
From 1 to 12, you need the entire team. From 1 to 8, you just don't need just one player or 2. You need the whole team to contribute. Because now one
and you look at every NBA championship team in the last 70 years, they've gotten each and every single one of their guys to contribute.
Speaking of the Knicks, the Raptors beat the Knicks yesterday, so they do well in the playoffs again. Also, getting off the Knicks for a moment, because the Leafs lose set-up matchup versus the Caps. The NFL playoff picture with the regular season ending.
I'll take care of this for you.
The Maple Leafs.
NHL season officially ended last night. The Rangers wrapped it up with a win against the Penguins. The Islanders and the Devils seasons are officially over. So now the playoffs start in exactly 2 nights. The Rangers are going to play the Canadiens. The Maple Leafs, who really grew by leaps and bounds this season, no thanks to their hot rookie Austin Matthews, are going to play the Capitals in the other Eastern Conference playoff game, or Eastern Conference playoff series, I should say. Excuse me.
I got their division.
The Penguins have the Columbus Blue Jackets in the other series out east, and there's also the Bruins and the Senators to make up the Eastern Conference playoff picture.
You got Montreal Montreal, Ottawa, Boston, Toronto, Tampa Bay, Florida, Detroit, and Buffalo. You want read the rest.
Well,
it's right here.
You know what? Let's just get to the playoff matchups because now that the regular season is over, we can jump straight to the playoffs.
The Islanders and the Rangers,
Islanders season is over. And it was a complete disappointment for them the year after making the second round of last year's playoffs.
Considering that they did
and if you
well in the beginning,
if you take away their bogus win-loss and overtime loss record, they were basically a 500 team.
I'm telling you, I still say the same thing, and that is they should go by a win-loss system, not a point system. I don't understand the point system. Unless somebody says. And even if somebody explains it to me, I don't think I'll ever understand the point system because the point system doesn't make sense. Does it to you?
Not even.
Exactly. So I don't know how.
Now, as far as what's going on out west, Chicago's the number 1 seed, and they're going to be joined by Minnesota, St. Louis, Nashville, the Anaheim Ducks, who won their 5th straight Pacific Division title, Edmonton, San Jose, and Calgary. that also make up the playoff picture out west. There's been a lot of talk of who's going to be the team to watch.
Yeah.
Definitely watch out for Pittsburgh. They're the defending champion. Chicago has had guys who have been through so many of the playoff wars. They've won a couple of titles in this decade. Right now, there's also been talk of the Washington Capitals. They won the President's Trophy this year after getting the best record in the league and also scoring the most points in the league. But Washington has had a bad playoff reputation. It's either been first round or second round or bust. They've only made it to one conference final in their entire 41 to 42 year history.
Wow.
Is this the year that the Capitals actually do something constructive
Do they have
in the
team
Stanley
to
Cup
do this?
playoffs? They definitely have the team. It's just a matter of putting it together in when it really counts. I mean, they've got the most dominant superstar in the game, which is Alex Ovechkin. But he has been a no-show. He's been a complete no-show in the postseason, and that's been the one criticism against him.
Will the Islanders get rid of their coach?
Well, they already fired Jack Capuano during the season, and they brought in Doug Waite. As far as whether Doug Waite is going to be returning, that's anybody's guess.
Rangers will keep the Rangers coach.
Oh yeah, Alain Vigneault is definitely going to be back next year. The question is, how far can the Rangers go? Because they slumped pretty badly the last couple of weeks of the year. They lost 13 out of their last 21 games.
They're off and on though. They're off and on. It's like everybody else. I mean, you know.
Special teams is going to be a real key for them. And going up against a team like Montreal, which has got so many big guns and also a lot of brutality, physical play on them, it's anybody's guess as far as how far the Rangers go. As far as the Devils, they won 27 games this year. They were the fourth worst team in the league. As far as whether they bring their coach back, that's anybody's guess, to be honest with you.
On an off topic, ladies and gentlemen, Frowls Di Tommaso Crispy SP 400 800.
Yeah,
Strikes gold.
He's
he's. Go ahead. Talk about Staten Island for a little bit.
He's talking about some of the stuff that's going on in our neck of the woods,
Go ahead,
specifically what's going in high school. They had the Mayor's Cup over at Randall's Island a couple of days ago, and as it turns out, it was Farrell that wound up winning gold in the 4x800 relay race.
And at least they won gold.
Yep.
Okay, that's
Farrell won in the 4x800 meters, and also St. Peter's wound up winning their heat in the 4x400.
And you see, and it says NDA's 4x800 unlikely heroes as Gators win too.
Yep, this was in the Mayor's Cup tournament.
Again,
Notre Dame Academy wound up getting some help as they won the 4x800 tournament.
Oh, wow. CSI/McCrown completed Saturday the Comet Relays, securing 2 sets of varsity 5th place medals in Hackensack. How could you get medals in 5th place?
It happens.
Normally 1st and 3rd. I mean, listen, I'm sorry. I mean, we have become too PC. Everybody gets a medal, even if you get a medal for last place. I mean, for God's sakes, it used to be before the first 3 teams. Well, even the first 4 teams used to, even the, okay, let's say 5, but not everybody got a trophy. Oh, you got a trophy for being in last. Come on. But you know what?
And for the record, CSI McCown wound up competing in something called the Comet Relays, which was in Hackensack, and they wound up winning in the 4x1600 meter relay.
And look.
Yep, this is in college. This is in the college ranks now. I see Wagner College wound up having a doubleheader just yesterday against Bryant University, and Wagner won the first game 3-0, but lost the second game 4-1.
And then what is it? Dominican 9, Holy Family 8, Holy Family
this is in
7, Dominican 4.
Yeah, I think this is in Division 3 action.
Yeah.
Actually, this is in softball.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me correct myself. This was actually in softball that took place yesterday. So Wagner split a softball doubleheader with Bryant, And Holy Family wound up splitting a softball doubleheader with Dominican College.
And baseball, Bryant 6, Wagner 5.
Yeah, Bryant won in baseball against Wagner.
Men's lacrosse.
Yep. Polytechnic won 15-10 over Cobleskill. And on the women's side, the Wagner ladies unfortunately wound up losing to Robert Morris.
You know, that's a sport that's becoming very popular besides soccer that's not really covered much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very popular sport. I mean, I don't think there's professional teams that are out there right now. But
there are semi-pro teams.
Do you think
there's the National Lacrosse League?
Oh, okay. Well, then there's some hope for people then. But
and the high school circuit and the college circuit is huge. The college game is really, really big.
And it's a shame that.
In fact, they have their national championship over the weekend of Memorial Day.
It's a shame that most of our presidents, including the one we have, is really cutting the sports and music. I mean, we need sports and music.
It's gotten to the point where nothing is safe,
we need police,
much less sacred anymore when it comes to the arts or any kind of athletic competition.
I mean, if the children are our future, where are we going to put our children? Our jobs from the past are not of the future anymore. So that's what we got to think of. But you know what? A lot of things have come up, especially, like I said before, with the New York Nets, the Brooklyn Nets.
That's a lost cause right there. The only thing with them is at least they've been able to show a little bit of pride the last week or two of the season.
Brook Lopez got to go.
They had their chance to make a deal for him, and they didn't pull the trigger either.
Because they wanted 2 number ones, if I remember correctly. 2 number ones and something else.
And the most the Nets could do was trade Bojan Bogdanovic and
to
Chris
Cavaliers.
McCullough to the Washington Wizards.
Well, but the Wizards are making the team, so I mean they're making the playoffs.
At least Brooklyn has 3 pieces right now that they can really try and build a future with. Karis LeVert, Isaiah Whitehead, and also, LeVert and Whitehead are the 2 kids, and also Rondae Hollis-Jefferson.
Right.
Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is in his 2nd year, and he's only getting better. Karis LeVert and Isaiah Whitehead. LeVert specifically is a guy who has a real upside. Whitehead is a guy who, if he can show a little bit more consistency, he has the chance to be a really, really good player for them. But those are 3 young guys that they can try and build a future around.
The problem with the Nets is draft choices. They don't have any draft choices.
The other problem is exactly what kind of identity do they have? I don't know if they want to be a team that wants to rely on a transition game offensively or a half-court game offensively, or if they want to do anything on the defensive front, because defensively they're getting torched every single loss. There's a reason why they've lost 60 games this year.
And they shoot a lot of threes like most teams now.
That's the thing. Do you know that the other day there was a team, I think it might have, the Houston Rockets. Houston had a home game recently. They shot 53 three-point shots. You can't win games if you're going to launch 53 three-pointers. Sorry, but that's not happening.